Morning, everyone. Today I have three things I want to show you. And although they look very different from each other, they have something in common. I'd like to see if you can figure out what it is that they have in common. All right? Here's the first thing. See this? Okay? Here's the second thing. Okay? Here's the third one. So these are the three things. This, this. If you think you know what they have in common, why don't you raise your hand? Yes. They're all tools, yes. Something else? All measuring. That's right. All tools to measure, right? This will measure maybe some ingredients for something that a person's going to make, right? This will measure very, very small distances, called a micrometer. Very, very teeny tiny distances. This will measure larger distances, right? Greater distances. So these are all tools to measure things. And we have many, many tools that we use to measure things, right? We're really good at measuring things. And one of the reasons why we go to school is to learn about how to measure things, right? I bet you when you go to the doctor's, one of the first things that the doctor does is measures how tall you are, right? Because they can tell certain things about your measurements, right? They might also measure how much you weigh, right? They can check in on things. We measure the length of boards when houses and homes are built to make sure that they're strong and sturdy. We measure ingredients that we put into certain dishes to make sure that they turn out right and they taste good and are nutritious for us. But we measure all sorts of things. We measure the lengths of rivers. We know the distance it is from the earth to the moon. We measure many things. Can you think of some other things that we measure? What are some things that we measure? Yes. A ruler is a great tool for measurement. What are some things you might measure with a ruler? Or just measure in general? You can measure a room. That's right. Excellent. Maybe if you're going to get a rug or something like that, or you want to do some work in your room. Yes. What would you measure? A pool, that's right. If you're going to build a pool and put one in your yard, you need to measure it to make sure it'll fit in your yard and have the space you need. Yes. A stick, you might measure a stick for some purpose. Yes, I imagine, yes. Wood, yes, that's right. You measure wood to cut it the right size if you're going to build something. Yes. A window, yes. Paper, that's right. Measure paper, yeah. Measure a dog. All right. If it'll sit still, that's right. That's right. So when you take a dog to the vet, one of the first things that my dog is measured for his weight, right? And so that's true. We measure all sorts of things, and it's very, very important. But I was thinking about that this week. I also was reminded of the fact that some of the most important things in the world you don't measure. Because you can't measure. You know, we have all sorts of tools and instruments to help measure. We have all sorts of people measuring all the time. We're going to measure throughout our lives. But some of the most important things in this world and in life, you can't measure. There's no tool for it. For example, how do you measure how you feel when a parent gives you a loving and kind and caring hug? How do you measure that? I mean, there's not a hugometer, right? That says, well, that was a good one, that one's so good. You know, I mean, you can, right? But you know that it has value, it has weight, it has meaning for you. Even though you can't measure it, how do you measure the kindness that someone extends to you when they offer to be your friend? Or they say something kind to you, something to encourage you and support you? How do you measure that? How do you mark that? How do you measure when someone forgives you? and gives you a second chance. How do you measure the love that you have for your parents or your parents have for you? How do you measure the thrill that you feel when you see an animal in the wild? I saw a fox this morning when I was walking my dog over. It was so thrilling and exciting. And what I'm feeling and experiencing is real. I can't measure it, but it's so, so valuable. How do we measure the love that God has for all of us? And God's love sharing all of us with us. You can't, but we know it's important, and we know it's valuable, and we know we need to pass these things on to each other. We know we need to learn how to practice these things, just like we need to know how to count our numbers and measure other types of things. So I pray you'll continue to do your best in school, even though school year is coming to an end. You'll continue to learn about instruments for measurement and how we can measure all sorts of things, and also that you'll continue to learn and to celebrate and give thanks for and to pass on those important things that we can't measure, but make life so rich and meaningful. Continue to practice these things. Continue to share them with one another. Thank you very, very much for being here today. I saw a fun show this past Friday evening at the Majestic Theater in West Springfield. It was called Lies and Legends, the musical stories of Harry Chapin. Obviously the show was about the late great singer, songwriter, humanitarian, Harry Chapin. And to help me with my message today, I'm going to ask you to indulge me once again. You know what's coming. I'd like to play a song for you as part of my reflection. A number of you seemed to enjoy it a couple weeks ago, so I thought I might be able to get away with it again today. I won't be making a habit of this, but it seemed appropriate today. It's one of my favorites, this song. It's kept me very, very good company for a long, long time.
Tried to write just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were flames to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking for the doings. And as he grew, he'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when we'll get together then, son. You know we'll have a good time then. But my son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, I got a lot to do. He said, that's okay. And then he walked away, but he smiled at me and said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah. You know I'm gonna be like him. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together there, son. You know we'll have a good time then. When he came from college just the other day, so much like a man I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, I've long since retired, my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you, if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I can find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids have the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as he hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. We're gonna have a good time then.
Thank you. You know, a number of things have been swirling around inside of me recently. It's been a pretty emotional time. First of all, as you've heard, if you've been listening, or the announcements times, we've had a number of deaths in our congregation. lately. Just this past week, I officiated at 3 funerals and then attended one for my own extended family as well. In addition, this is Memorial Day weekend, as we've mentioned. Oftentimes we remember people we continue to love but can no longer see. Remember the sacrifices of those who served in the military. So this weekend, a very reflective and somber time as well. Thinking about this, participating in so many funerals, being with family, friends, and congregation members whom I care deeply about, seeing them go through the pain of loss and trying to journey with them some is draining, but it's all very meaningful as well. Sharing in these sacred times can help remind me of what is really important in life, and they remind me of how precious and valuable life really is. Then, of course, it's a special year for us because one of our children is graduating from high school. Our son Jacob will have his last track meet of his high school career tomorrow. And this Friday will be his last day of school at Springfield Central High. He'll graduate with the rest of his classmates in 2 weeks at Symphony Hall. And I've been trying to slow down, these days a little bit. You know what I mean? To savor them because I know that they're lasts. In addition, our youngest, Joanna's right behind. She still has another year to go, but we've been busy looking at schools. And I know that just 1 year from now, we'll be facing the very same thing. We'll be in the exact same place with her. And this past Thursday night was her junior prom. I came home a little early from work so I could be with her and the family. We got the camera out. We found a camera. We got the camera out. We met her date, we took all these pictures and then went to a friend's home where there were more prom couples and additional parents, and even more pictures were being taken, and she looked so beautiful. And so grown up. Huh? What's going on? What's happening? And then we had this woman confirmation service last Sunday, 12 fine young people, beautiful young people, standing before us, taking this important step in their journey of faith. And one of the most powerful moments of the service for me is when each individual member of the class comes up here and then they're surrounded by this community of family and friends, extended family members, congregation members, prayer partners, confirmation companions, staff, and this image of community of people surrounding them, laying their hands upon them, loving them and blessing them can be very, very meaningful. And of course, we got this baptism today, right? James Christopher, some of you might remember we prayed for James and for Nicole, for Colin, family, because he had a little difficult start, right? He came earlier than we had anticipated. And so those days were a little bit more anxious than usual. But here he is, healthy and strong. He's beautiful. And we're here giving thanks to God and dedicating ourselves to his future. And then, as you know, because you've all been invited to attend, we're going to have a special wedding later in the afternoon right here in this very space. You've all been invited to come. Another important step in the journey of life, another stage, another sacred covenant, a holy transition. And I guess that's what has really spoken to me this week, all these different pieces. And what's the message in here? I felt led to just reflect with you some, that this is all sacred. This is all sacred. Every little bit of it, even the hard parts, it's all sacred. With Jacob getting ready to graduate from high school, I found myself kind of reflecting some on earlier experiences in his life, and I was especially reminded of this when I received an email from a member of Trinity Church who was a son who's graduating this year and a daughter who's right behind. And I received this email from him, unsolicited, just one father to another, reflecting upon these transitions, asking each other how it feels, and wondering where our faith is in all of this. I told him I'm grieving some. But I remember grieving at other times too. I can still remember dropping Jacob off at preschool for the very first time, right? I tried to prepare myself for this very, very significant moment, right? I had this little speech prepared. I was ready to offer comforting words as he clung to me. as he anxiously embraced this new future. I had it all played out in my mind. And I still remember walking up the driveway of the school together, and then things went completely differently than I had imagined. Right? He just said, "Bye, Dad," and he was eager to start this new adventure. I was left standing there. I was like, "What happened?" You know? No speech, no tears on his part. I was the one having a hard time. I was learning that life is all about learning how to let go. It is. Knowing when to hold on, for sure, but also, just as importantly, knowing how to wisely and graciously and lovingly let go. I was learning that life is about having your heart broken over and over again. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay because that's the way life is if you're going to invest yourself in it, if you're going to care deeply about people and about what's going on around you. I've learned that I can continue to trust those I love and myself to a future that awaits us. And I can do this because I believe that with each new transition, although often accompanied with some grief and pain, there are also new possibilities and new blessings to discover. I was able to do this because each stage in my children's lives and each stage in our own lives has something of value in it, and it has value in it precisely because God is here, right in the midst of it with us. In a little over a year, Joy and I are going to be empty nesters for the first time. And it will also be the first time in our lives as a couple where we've had no children in our home. And I know that this is going to be sad, and I know it's going to feel strange, but I also know it's going to hold within it new opportunities. And I trust that we will be able to remain open for what's coming next, and to look for God in this new stage of our lives. And I hope that we can remain open in this way throughout our entire lives, even when we come to the end of our lives. And I hope that we'll be able to have this type of faith, because our faith enables us to do this. It's the firm belief that God is with us in all times, in all seasons, in all places, in all circumstances, sometimes a little hidden. But if we look closely, we'll find God there. And I believe that despite what happens in life, God loves us and wants what's best for us, and so I try to remain open to this truth and to trust it with each new challenge and each new opportunity. Being aware of this helps me live in a way that I try not to take any moment for granted. Helps me live in a way that acknowledges the sacredness of this entire journey and everything around us, especially the small pieces we can overlook. Now, I was reminded of this truth in a new way when I read a wonderful book written by John Philip Newell. I've mentioned it before, A New Harmony, A New Spirit, The Earth, and the Human Soul, and I highly recommend it. At one point in this work, the author mentions the story of Moses and the burning of the bush, the one that Ken just shared with us. As we heard, God dresses Moses from this bush, and he's told to take off his shoes. And he's told to do this because the ground upon which he's standing is holy ground. It's a great story to remind us of the sacredness of life around us. Newell states Moses is told to uncover the soles of his feet because our feet are deep places of knowing. Think about that for a moment. Think about what it feels like to walk barefoot in the grass. The older we get, we don't do that so much, but try it. Think about what it feels like to place your bare feet in the coolness of a refreshing stream. Think about what it feels like to dig your feet into the fine grains of a sandy beach. When we do this, we can reconnect with how sacred it all is. We can see life in a new way. An individual named Rabbi Nahum, teaching on this passage from Exodus, likes to say that the important aspect of the story is not that the bush is burning. It's not that the bush is burning. The important aspect is that Moses notices the bush. And I love this. The important thing is that Moses notices because every bush is burning. Every bush is alive with the presence of God. The presence of God's life is hidden everything that has being. So much of the key to living a full life, I think, is simply not forgetting that the earth that births and baptisms, that preschools and proms and confirmations and graduations and even deaths are all sacred. They are because the Spirit of God is present through them all. Newell points out that we've tragically divided the word matter from its Latin root, mater, which means mother. The word itself reminds us that all matter, the matter of stars and planets, of the earth and life-giving energies, the matter of our bodies and our deepest yearnings all come from our mother. They're conceptions of the Holy Spirit, which is to say that all matter is holy. At the heart of the material, this life that is around us is the spiritual. And we are the community called to celebrate this and to remind people of this and to point it out. The deeper we move into the matter of the universe, the closer we come to the Spirit, the more we pay attention to every single moment, the poignancy and potential of each moment to what is happening around us, we will know this profound truth. So I've been coming back to Harry Chapin these past few weeks, and this song in particular. And I've been thinking about how important this message is. Don't let the gift of life pass you by. Because cats in the cradle and silver spoons and little boy blue and the man in the moon and births and learning to walk and birthdays and play and catch with your child and going off to college and kids moving away and retirement and everything in between and beyond was sacred. Chapin was a master at helping us see the extraordinary in the ordinary. My friends, Christ came to help us see this as well. Of course, the other message of the song is that our children are going to follow our example. I recently learned this song was partly inspired by Chapin's own relationship with his son, Josh. When talking about the song, Chapin once admitted, "Frankly, this song scares me to death." I know what he means by that. The responsibility we have for the example we set is tremendous. The impact of each person's example is far-reaching. So let us be good stewards of this gift that we have been given and that we share together. Putting our time and energy to things that matter and noticing the presence of God. And may we be good examples, not